Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closure Show. As always, Scott Carson, jacked up to take care of you today. And we've got another case study, this one on a performing note in Georgia. That's right, the Peach State. I know a lot of investors out there are looking for assets in Texas and Georgia because they're the two fastest foreclosure states. But this is one you're probably, if you end up buying it, wouldn't have to foreclose on it because it's performing, ton of equity. And I want to go through the numbers with you guys today. This is also one of the assets. It's a part of the tape of that we just got in the other day. It was also along with the tape of the one in Calumet City. There's another one, Harrisburg, PA, that we'll be talking about the next day or so as well with you guys here. So this asset, not a bad looking property. It's in Rossville, Georgia. Now, if you don't know where Rossville is, it's on the north side of the state. It's just south of Tennessee, actually. So it's up on the northern side of Georgia. Not the biggest town, but it's a good looking little asset. You know, what was great was when I pulled a photo, it's a two-story kind of like two-story house, kind of like one of those tri-level things or bi-level where you walk in, you go up the stairs to the top floor, you go down the stairs to the first floor. It looks like it had a one-car garage. It's been converted to either another apartment or another entrance on it. And definitely some pride of ownership, some emotional. Like we look at the photos, there's a Christmas wreath on the front door. The lawn's landscape. There's a Advocare sign with a phone number in the front yard, and the house looks in really good condition. It may need a little bit of work on the outside of the landscaping as far as, but I couldn't tell if that was the next door neighbor or just an empty lot. But anyway, this loan, give you the numbers on it. It's performing, originated November 2015 at $55,000. It was just a 12-year loan, which is interesting. Okay. Current unpaid principal balance of $25,825. So they've literally paid off $30,000 of their balance. So quite a bit of their, over 50% of what they borrowed, they paid off. The interest rate's at a 5% flat interest rate. The P&I payment of this is $467.82 per month. The thing that really shot out to me is the actual value of the property. Fair market value is somewhere right at $200,000 or more. So they've got a lot of equity, about $175,000 worth of equity. Only roughly, was that 1/8? This is what, about 12-13% compared to the value. So a lot of equity in this asset. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,186, so just under 1,200 square foot, maybe a little bit longer with that converted one-car garage. It matures in just a few years, January 2027, because I said it was a 12-year loan. So they've been paying this thing down, and we've only got 41 payments remaining on this asset. So taxes are paid up to date. Now, the question is, what would you pay for this note? Okay, and I say I'd offer up 50% of the unpaid principal balance. And well, then that's exactly what I did offer up. The seller came back and wanted me to come back at 80 cents on the dollar of the unpaid balance. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to pay $20,000 for this, because the reason I'm offering at 50% of unpaid principal balance, it basically is $12,400 on this deal, is because there's only 41 payments remaining, basically less than right at 3.5 years remaining. I've got to see a phenomenal ROI on this over the next 3.5 years to pay back my principal, okay, and make some profit on it. 5% interest rate is not anything to get excited about in a environment with regular prime being at 7-8%. Okay, I'm losing money. If I've got to borrow money at 8%, I'm not going to make any money. So let's go through, just kind of run the numbers. So they wanted me to pay 20. So let's just say we use that number. So 467.82 times 12, that's 5613, right? If I divide that by the 20,000 they wanted me to pay, that's a 28% annualized return, which is pretty good, right? But I need to make more than 100. You got to realize 28% in 3.5 years is only time. If I do that times 3.5, I'm barely going to break even. I'm barely going to break even of what I receive in payments to what my investment is. And the seller, this is the problem when you deal with some of these stupid online portals. Now, this came This is not from an online portal, but this came from a guy who's brokering this deal on my behalf, or not on my behalf, but on behalf of the sellers. This is one of like 7, 8 deals he's selling. And I said, I'm not paying more than 50 cents of the dollar. It makes no sense for me to pay 20,000 on this when I'm not going to make any money. That's before that number that I just gave you is if I use my own funds. I'm not going to make a 1% return based on where everything's at, or break even barely in 3.5 years. I've got to get a phenomenon. If I accept it, I don't think he's going to get anybody to come in and pay $20,000. If he did, good for him. If you're using your own IRA money and you want to do this and you want to get a 5-6% return, okay, it's not so bad for you. Good stuff for you. Me, I don't want that. I want an above average return, right? But if you borrow 20,000 times, and this is just, let's just say 0.08, that's 1,600 a year. Divide that by 12 months. That's basically paying 133, but you're not paying down that principal. That's the big thing about notes with less than 10 years remaining. If you're borrowing at interest only rates, you got to be damn sure that the unpaid balance does not fall below your interest only balance. And this would fall down below that balance pretty fast, very, very quickly. If I'm borrowing at 20 to pay for it, I'm making some cash flow on it. I'm making, if I would make cash flow, I'm 467 minus the 133, I'm making $334 a month, but that's really all I'm making. I'm going to lose. I can't pay my investor back at the end of 3 years because the loan's paid off. Okay. My only hope would be the seller to go out and refinance out, pay this thing off. They're not going to do that with this much equity. They're not going to. The loan interest rate at 5% is great compared to market. And I don't know what their FICO scores are or what their credit is, but there's no really any motivation to go do this. So this is a dud if I have to pay more than 50 cents of the dollar. The seller, if he's held on to this period of time, yeah, I understand wanting 80 cents a dollar because a performing note should get 80 cents of the dollar. Yes, if it's got a year or two seasoning, but if it's only got a few years left out of 12 years, this is not the way to go. And this guy's going to get stuck holding, or somebody is going to end up buying it and screwing up. Now, the nice caveat, some people have asked me, well, Scott, this is in Georgia. Don't you need a specific mortgage broker's license to buy in Georgia? And yes, that would be the case. You need to have a mortgage broker's license if you're just buying even one note in Georgia. But the exception is you don't have to jump through the hoops of getting a mortgage broker's license or hanging with a mortgage broker's entity if you're using your self-directed IRA. If you're using your self-directed IRA, you're exempt from that licensing requirement, and that's why this might make sense to do that. Now, are people buying notes in Georgia and without a mortgage broker's license and trying to foreclose before the Attorney General finds out? Yes, I don't think that's a smart play. There's some big firms out there that we've traded from who've been kicked out of the state of Georgia because they violated that rule too many times, and now they can't own anything, and they're going to get a huge fine. So they don't buy anything in Georgia because they've played that chicken game, as I like to say, or hide and go seek. Hide and nope seek is a better way to put it. But this is one, and that's why you always got to look at stuff. Every note has a different story to tell. Like I got another tape in today of 14 first liens non-performing. The servicer is bragging on that they serviced these loans for a while. And I'm looking back at these, and like the last payment on these are like 2, 3, 4 years. And a lot of these don't have any type of foreclosure timeframes added to them or any type of stuff. Now, some of them have been modified, I get it. And some of them are bringing in payments, which is decent, but over half of these are not performing of any sort of fashion. So that leads me to think either the servicer's falling down the job or the loan holder, the note, the bank, technically, the investor doesn't have the funds to finish the foreclosures, which will happen if you have limited funds. But based on the cash flow coming in, they should have some money to handle paying the attorney to foreclose on these things. But anyway, we'll talk about that case study in the next couple of days as we go through some more of these assets. But I would love to hear from you. If you're enjoying these case studies, can you do me a huge favor? Shoot me an email, scott@weclosenotes.com, or comment on the video if you're watching the video, or if you're listening to the podcast. Do me a favor, go over, hit a 5-star review, and just say, hey, I'm loving the case study videos, or whatever. I want to deliver what you want to hear more of. If you like more specific individual stuff on little nuggets about note investing, I'll be glad to go more into that. If you love the case studies, I'm glad to keep going through that and mixing in. If you want more interviews, just let me know. But shoot me a message, email scott@weclosenotes.com, or heck, text me 512 585-3810. It's 512-585-3810. And tell me what you like, you dislike, and I want to deliver the best content out there for you. That's why I think we've done a good job of having the #1 YouTube channel and the #1 podcast when it comes to note investors out there, because we deliver what you want to hear. And we'll keep doing that as we keep going. So, but anyway, guys, this is a dud. If they, like I said, they wanted 20 on this one, they wanted 8 cents a dollar, makes no sense. Not a good deal at that price point. 50 cents a dollar would be the highest I would go, and I'd get a pretty decent deal on that. But not anything above that. It's just not worth the time. And that's the numbers I ran there without servicing. You're not going to pay too much in servicing, 15, 25 bucks a month for a performing note. And it is supposed to be with a third-party servicer on this deal, which is important. So, but this is an equity deal, decent looking property, a lot of equity. You don't own the equity, you own the note. And I've seen many new note investors come in and overpay for assets like this, and then they go, oh shit, later on when they realize they're not making really any money, and their money's tied up in a very, very low performing. Like I give you an example. If you paid 20 cents a dollar, you would make roughly 6 cents on the dollar. Okay. You make 6% ROI in this deal, and that's just not worth doing. And if you're paying 8%, it's really hard to make any money when you're only making 6% and you're paying back 8%. You might make a short-term period of time, but at the end, you're going to get caught owing the investor a chunk of change. So hopefully, guys, this helped answer some questions. You're getting a little bit more knowledgeable on what we look at, and hope you enjoyed this episode. Feel free to share, like, or comment. Make sure you subscribe button, and let me know, guys. I really want to hear from you. So anyway, go out, take some action, everybody, and we'll see you at the top.